Alright, welcome back to the shop. Today we are back on the Tacoma. I actually have a drive shaft coming in the mail. I will show that, I'm sure, in this video, but I'm not going to get it for a day or two. So today we're going to work on making a cross member that will allow that drive shaft to fit. As you can see, the output on the transfer case right here, it's pretty well in line with this cross member, especially on its way to the diff. So we need to get rid of this guy. We're going to try to do a tie-in on the frame. We're going to move the point of contact back to here. We're going to end up cutting this one out. And hopefully it's going to belly pan underneath the transfer case a little bit and tie into the original stock cross-member mount, bushing, whatever you want to call it. I guess it'd just be the mount. We took some time, drew up a template. As usual, I've got Kevin helping me out. So this is, we're looking at this from the bottom. This center line is the center of the transmission. These are where the stock mounts are going to be. Technically the output of the transfer case is down here in relation to this template. This dip allows that drive shaft to come out. The wing over to the frame, comes over to this side. We got to figure out what we're going to do with this cut in here. Probably try to match the sides. These are going to come up back towards the outsides of the frame rails. But for now, this is going to be our template. We're going to try to get it on some 1/4 inch and just plasma cut it out for now and go from there. Width may be our biggest fight on this. I think this is wide enough. Our frame isn't very wide, and that's about a 60-inch plate. But mostly just a lot of getting this cut out, getting it marked up on that plate, and getting everything kind of cleaned up where we can start working with it better. Alright, we've got the template down on the 1/4 inch. Fits good. Got a little bit of a dent in this far corner, a little bit off frame. It doesn't look like it's going to get in our way. This thing is plenty long enough to fit between the frame rails, even with a little bit of bend on each side. But we're going to show you a quick tip for trying to get this marked. If you don't have a paint pen or some type of Sharpie that will write on steel, we're going to spray paint real lightly around the edges, and it should just give you a contrast between the steel and the paint. Take it away. Under the truck now, the plate we just cut out, the 2 little holes are right there, and the wide spot over there is going to be for the exhaust hanger. You see how we kind of lined them up through? We're thinking about utilizing this thickness here. That way we don't have to build a tower. Because as soon as we use this cross member, this one is no use to us anymore. But we're getting it figured out. We do know that the sides, these wings, need to bend up somewhere to get up to the bottom of the frame. So we're going to try to figure out where to bend them up right now, get a mark on them. But so far the fitment looks really nice. Clearancing for the drive shaft is nice. Wide and open, nothing in the way. Alright, you just saw me finish grinding all the edges smooth. We've now, after taking some measurements, we've got center line and we measured 11 inches each way. We're going to take the side grinder and cut a score into this so that we can bend the edges up at an angle. We're going to do one at 11 inches and then we're going to come over 6 inches from that mark and score it again to break it back down the other direction. So that's what we're going to work on now. We haven't totally decided which side to score it on. We think we're going to do this side on this corner, but we haven't talked about doing this side yet, so we'll see what happens. But we're going to score it in 4 places. 11 inches, then 6 inches. And that's based on the center of the vehicle, the center of the transmission, center of the transmission mount. Alright, here you can see we've got the first bend. It's a little bit too much angle. Took us a second to figure out how to get this to bend easy without having to just manhandle it. But now that we have the score marks in them, we'll show you how we got it done. Got a little piece of like 3/4 inch steel tube. Got the press. Take all the plates and attachments out. Have one man hold the plate. The other man hold a camera. When everything is centered and lined up, start putting some pressure down on it. And the bend starts to form. I mean, that took all of 40 seconds. But I do know we're shooting for approximately 3 inches of rise on the side, and we're past that. Not by much. So that's fine, because we can always push back down on this and remove some. We're going to try to get this close to 3 inches, and next we'll be moving this one back down. Alright, it took a little bit of beating and banging, or at least on one side, this side. We've got them both where it's like 3 inches from the table to the top of this, which is the number we kind of like. This side we already got a couple tacks. We're clamping it to the level to hold it all square to the table and square to itself. So it's nice and flat. While it's in this position, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a full weld on the portions I can get that aren't hitting the level. And I'll probably run a decent bead inside of here. Probably should clean that out a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Alright, the next thing, we got this template cut out. The output of the driveshaft transfer case right here needs some clearance, so we're going to make this vertical gusset to weld in here. We've done some measuring and this should clear that whole area, so we'll do another bit of plasma cutting out of this 1/4 inch, but that's what we're going to do, lay this in here and get it tacked in. Next update, got this crossmember cut out. Still a little rough on the edges, we'll clean that up. But got our fitment pretty tight against this bottom of the pan. Going to clamp the level back on top and get everything where we like it and just run some pretty fat tacks on it. I think we're going to tack all this. Kevin's going to take it to work where he's got the opportunity to sandblast this thing. And then when it's all out cleaner, we can run some stronger beads and everywhere on it. But for now, we're just trying to get all the gussets tacked where we want them, and we'll fully weld it later. For now, we kind of like it. We're going to tack this in place a couple light tacks, check that this fitment works with that output, and then put it all back on the table and maybe do a couple heavier tacks. So a lot of fitment problems here, just a lot of fitment. We've been doing this now for a couple hours. I don't know. We're getting there. Alright, a little bit of a jump here to the next update. I had Kevin take this and sandblast it at his job for me. Went ahead and made 2 matching plates, one for driver and one for passenger. This one's yet to be sandblasted. I'll have him do that. And I drilled 4 holes in each of these plates. They're the same. Put them on top of the arms of the mount, drilled corresponding holes, put bolts and nuts through them. I'm going to bust out the welder, weld these nuts to this plate so that they're retained. The idea is that the frame will lay right here on the truck, and I can weld a bead down 4 places on the truck frame rail on both sides, there and there. And then you can just zip the nuts out from the bottom because they'll be retained onto the plate, and you can drop the whole transmission crossmember at once. So I need to get that welded on there, and on the bottom I still need to come up with a gusset for the arm right there on each side. We have this big vertical plate that's going to be very strong, but we need something there and something there on the bottom to kind of support it. I've got an idea, but I'm going to cut some template before I show it off. Side note, got the drive shaft for the truck. Checked it, fits good. Got it from a place in Ogden, Utah called Tom Wood's Custom Drive Shaft. So far it looks really good. They got it built and shipped out quick. But meets up the way I need it to. Matching flange front and rear. CV on this end. Single U-joint on that end. So I did check it. It goes in the truck. Because of the size of this diameter, it actually barely clears the stock crossmember, but it wouldn't clear under actual usage. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and get these welded up and make some templates for these arm gussets. Alright, another day, another update. Gonna make some progress. It's a weekend. Gonna get this skid plate / crossmember for the Tacoma done. Everything's been sandblasted, but it's getting a little bit of surface rust on it. It's been sitting in the shop for like a week, a little less than a week, as I've been busy at work. I've got the rear skid that's going to kind of help block more of the driver's side where the motor and the transfer case drop is. This side's got an exhaust running through it. Got these vertical gussets that I can still shorten up as needed. These are to kind of help, they got a little bend in them, but that's fine. These are going to be to help give that a gusset. This is for a spacing I need, and then I'm going to also weld the stock crossmember on here and probably chop it in 2 places. It does use 2 bolts to hold a exhaust hanger up over here. And I've got the 2 plates on the sides made. The only thing I didn't make, and I think I had said it last time, was some gussets for the bottom of this wing. If I recall correctly, I've already got them marked out here. So I just need to side grind those out. I think they'll be strong enough, 1/8 inch just on the edge, because I'm going to triangulate them a bit. But I'm ready to get this thing done today, get some paint on it, get it in the truck. Alright, I've got the little gusset arms for up in here. I'm going to do like a diamond plate. I think it'll look nicer. If something hit it, it'll hopefully slide off it easier. This is like 1/8 inch, maybe a hair thinner. 3/32, I don't know. I think it'll be fine for what it is. It's a gusset, and I'm doubling down on them. So anyhow, but what I'll show you going on here is if I look flat to the table, it doesn't show off very easy, but basically it's like it's high on this end and low here. It's as if the flatness of the bottom and this are not equal. This is actually kind of up a little bit, so I need to bring it back down. And to do so, I'm clamping the corner, got a little plate underneath this, and pressing the 2 sides flat to the table, and putting the gussets in between. So hopefully I can just weld this in just like that, and it'll stiffen that corner up. Then I'll spin it around 180 and do it again. So I think that'll be strong enough. Alright, all my confidence and shit talking earlier. This didn't actually meet up well with the frame rails. It was like this nut could not fit on the inside of the frame rails on both sides. It was as if I goofed and got this thing too far over and this thing would bump in. So, put a relief nut on both sides, pressed it in, kind of pulls the whole arm in, which does technically lower this a bit. I think it will be alright. Clearance a little bit for the exhaust here. Already showed I got the little spacer on the front tacked on. The plates for the frame were actually bolted on, so once I get it in position under the truck, these are going to get tacked on. So the next thing we're going to do is test fit. If it's fitting, I'm going to go ahead and tack them to the frame, unbolt them, then those can be solid welded, and then I can work on getting some of the rest of the stuff off the truck and getting a piece welded here that has the exhaust hanger and the stock mount for the stock transfer case mount, transmission mount. And I actually put a tick mark here, which is where I need clearance for the exhaust, and I've got a skid plate to go here to cover the electric motor and the output of the transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and get this under there and work on getting it test fitted. Currently have the floor jack supporting the transmission. We pulled that cross member out. I've got the upper plates welded to the frame on both sides. You can see it right in the center of the screen. I intend to plasma cut out the stock mounts arms. They're not going to be used anymore. We marked the stock cross member. We want to reuse a portion of it, as you can see. We've already cut it short to match. Gave ourselves some alignment lines. It'll sit flush at the front and get welded to it. We checked on our skid plate. We're kind of calling it the skid plate, the part on the back that's going to block the electric motor for the transfer case. We checked it. 45 degrees is a little steep, so we're probably going to shallow it up to like 35-ish and then test fit it. But those ones on the frame are already welded. I've got to weld up my clearancing mistake here and here. This has got to get welded on, and I got to get all the stuff plasma cut off the truck. So just a lot more welding and grinding and cleanup right now. Kind of boring. I show that in a lot of my videos so far. I'm probably just going to hustle through it. Takes all day to get anything done. Alright, big jump in update. Got the back skid plate on. I keep calling it a skid plate, but that's sort of what it is. It's not really part of the cross member in that it doesn't hold anything up. It's just a prevention from anything. If I back the truck up and there's some weird rock or stump or limb or something, isn't going to stab right at the back of the motor and drive shaft output. But got a gusset here. It's got a little curve in it because we're trying to miss the output of the transfer case. Got this one here, all welded. We put in a vertical, like 1x2 1/8" rectangle. Trying to prevent this thing from rotating. We found that when we bolted this thing in, because you can see it's not on the same plane as the top here, it's actually up. We found when we bolt this in and you let the weight of the transmission down on this, it does twist this whole thing, just rotates just a little bit. So I don't know. We're trying to prevent that as much as we can, stiffen it up. We may have to add an additional arm that comes off this side that reaches over towards the frame. But for now, it does actually hold the transmission up. We're just going to have to put it on there and do a little testing soon. See how much shake or wobble or bounce or rattle or whatever. We'll have to see. This is going to be an ongoing one for sure. But for now, it looks pretty good. We pulled this old piece of rubber off of the old, I guess we'd call it the transfer case guard. It just had this on the bottom. I'm going to probably somehow glue this into this marked section so I know that the bottom of the transfer case is not actually ever going to touch steel. But for now, this thing is looking good. It isn't going to get bolted in tonight. The transmission is just sitting up on a floor jack. We will get some paint on this thing. I'll work on getting it painted, getting it ready for tomorrow. The truck will just sit for the night, and that'll be fine. So hopefully this looks good and makes some sense to some people. But welds are all pretty strong looking, mostly 1/4 inch, a little 3/16 here. Those 1/8" diamonds supporting the outside, and probably 1/8" tube there. So everything's pretty strong. Even some 3/8 spacer in the front. So it's very strong. I don't think we're going to break it, More worried about it just kind of the transmission weight warping it a little bit. Anyhow, enough rambling. Alright, it's the next day. The transmission crossmember has had all night to cure the paint and dry up, as well as the paint on the mounts on the frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this on top of a floor jack and roll it up under there and get this thing installed. Alright, got the four that actually hold the mount to the top of the actual bushinged mount to the top of the transmission crossmember. Got those four in there, kind of a little bit difficult. Might try to swap to a slightly longer bolt in the future, but that's alright. And now that those ones are in, I need to get these four here on the end in. Alright, back up for a better view. Skid plate on the back turned out pretty nice. That curved gusset was on this side so that it would miss the edge here. I think it's pretty close, but it misses it. And the last thing I still have to do is hook up this exhaust hanger arm. Just need to pull it out, swing it over, and there's a couple bolt holes right there near the fingertips that needs a bolt to. Alright, now that the pan is bolted back in, the crossmember, I'm going to bolt in the drive shaft. This is the one I had made by Tom Wood's Driveshaft. They're in Ogden, Utah, and I just need to know, like, you know, ride height, flange to flange, extended flange, and compressed flange to flange. You know, your measurements, your typical stuff. Plus he wants to know what the actual flange dimensions are and what kind of joints you need depending on the shaft type you have. I'm going double cardan. I'm going to need the additional drop, plus my front pinion is pointing at the output of the transfer case. So this is going to be the shaft that needs to go in it. Got the drive shaft bolts. Need to get it up in there. Had to put the promotion on there. Alright, finished getting the drive shaft bolted in, transmission cross members in, everything's connected. My clearances are pretty good. I mean, it hangs a little bit lower than the leaf spring, but it's in front of the tire line, so I don't think I'd ever really get that into something unless a rock came up in the center. Either way, it's bolted in. Need to take it out and test that the four-wheel drive works. And we're going to have some friends along. It's got some squeaks and rattles, but seems to be working just fine. Playing out in them Florida power lines.